The December balance adjustment patch for Street Fighter 6 is now live, and with that patch came adjustments for every character in the game. Some got a lot, and some got a few. Juri only got a few. I wanted to go over what these changes are and how I feel about them. On the patch notes, let's go over the adjustment summary. We've made adjustments to Juri, so in specific situations, she'll have more combo routes, and some of our heavy attacks will give back more drive meter. Crouching heavy punch. The hit effect when this attack lands for a punish counter on a mid-air opponent has changed. It is primarily a counterattack against invincible attacks, but we wanted to give it different merits. So you can now dish out damage and gain up to 2 Fuha stocks when closing the distance, or go for a combo when scoring a punish counter on a standing opponent for varied effects. Heavy Fuhajin. We made this attack easier to combo from crouching heavy punch when the attack hits mid-air opponents on a punish counter. Basically, when you get a punish counter on a mid-air opponent with crouching heavy punch, you'll have more combo routes. Their vision is that you'll be able to gain up to 2 Fuha stocks. Spoiler alert, we can get 3. Or go for a combo when scoring a punish counter on a standing opponent. Their vision is when your opponent uses an invincible move, we can get a punish counter. And if we want to get more Fuha stocks, we can go for the air option. But if we want bigger damage, we can go for a grounded option as well. We'll talk about why that's a little flawed. Let's go over the details of the adjustments. Standing heavy a kick. Change the drive gauge increase from the following: the normal version from 3,000 to 4,000, and the chain combo version from 750 to 1,000. A point of reference is that a full bar of drive gauge is 10,000 points. So the normal version goes from 30% of 1 bar to 40% of 1 bar. And in case you didn't know, we get different damage from a chain combo version, i.e. Feng Shui Engine. So it goes from 7.5% to 10%. Crashing heavy punch. Change the hit effect on mid-air punish counter to a spinning knockdown. This is what they talked about up top. This spinning knockdown will give us more routes and more time to combo mid-air. Korenzan, which is her back hard kick. The God button. JK LOL, I love you, Jago. Change the drive gauge increase to the following: the normal version from 1,500, which is 750 times 2, to 3,500, which is 1,500 and 2,000 for the second hit. The chain combo version goes from 374, which was 187 times 2, to 875, which is 375 plus 500. And the same goes for Feng Shui Engine. It was 374, and they split that by 2. Now, not only did they increase the amount of drive gauge, but it's split in a way that favors the second hit. And this is because on some juggles, the first hit doesn't hit, but the second hit will connect, while giving us an increase of drive gauge on hit. Heavy Fuhajin. Change the attacked active frames from 4 to 5 frames. With the changes to crouching heavy punch now giving this spinning knockdown, the idea is that we can use crouching heavy punch and cancel to heavy Fuhajin and juggle off of that. And this works, but not really. You can probably hear in my tone that I'm very unimpressed by these changes. The changes to drive gauge is pretty universal across the board. Even though this is a buff to Juri, mostly everyone got some change to drive gauge. The obvious big change is to crouching heavy punch, and heavy Fuhajin really doesn't change much. Let's first go over the drive gauge increase changes. Now when we use standing hard kick, we'll get a bigger chunk of drive gauge back when we hit that move. 40% of a bar is pretty good. If we look here, we get a big chunk of it back. And back hard kick gives a nice amount too. And to be honest, standing hard kick is a good button for Juri, so I like this change a lot. It's not very transformative, and it doesn't really change much about her, but hey, you know what? It is more gauge. The back hard kick change does feel a little whack, but there is a reason why I am a fan of it. With the change to back hard kick from the last patch allowing for more juggles, we do find more use from this move. And in my Feng Shui Engine combos, I always use back hard kick to normalize some combos. Because the thing about it is that it normalizes the knockdown and brings them back down to earth. Rather than there might be times where they would be too high up for some juggles and things wouldn't work right. When using back hard kick, it allowed me to go for the juggle and then maybe go for a safe jump here. So yeah, under Feng Shui Engine, I do have a lot of use for back hard kick. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes, and that is going to be the punish counter on crouching heavy punch. It's very finicky and a little goofy as to when I would want to use this. Because remember, this is on a punish counter, which means they whiff their attack and they're in the air. And I can't think of times in which someone would whiff an attack, they would be in the air, and we wouldn't have an option that was better. They said in their notes that when someone uses an invincible attack, we have the choice to hit them in the air for a different combo, or wait for them to hit the ground and then go for an option there. And there are some options that we can do. For an example, if you hit high enough, you can actually do a jump strong into a dive kick, which is kind of nice. It leads to a lot of corner carry, and we can even sometimes get a super off of it. And if we look at the health, it did a decent amount. But my issue is, on a punish counter, we already had options to do so. I mean, we already could do things like this. Now, the Fuha change does allow us to do something like this. If you do it late, that connects. And after that, we could do that. I mean, in actuality, we actually also could do this. I'm not saying it's a good option, but I mean, it's cool. It also does allow us a corner swap, which is kind of nice. And from the corner swap, the few things that we can do. Like, look, being able to hit this combo here is really cool. Leads to a lot of damage. Absolutely. Not going to lie about that. On a cash out, it did about 51%. If we're talking about a cash out, we have options to do a lot more. That did a whole 14% more damage. And being able to get 2 stocks here, look, it's not bad. But that only did 2,000 damage. So I decided to go to Yosan's video and see if he found any situations that I thought were cool or were better. And there's this combo here that I was like, oh, that's pretty damn neat, which I think is great corner carry. It's about 4k damage and uses 3 bars. So not the worst thing in the world. In the corner, I was most interested in this because this sequence for the OD moves is really good and leads to about 60%. Really good option. And the side switch using the Fuhajin, I didn't know about, was really good. But this combo here does just as much damage and is a staple and uses about the same amount of drive gauge. I'm just not sold on it. It's just that these combos are a little bit weird when it comes to like height restrictions. Do I wait for them almost to reach the ground? It's just that ultimately, like, this isn't what Juri players really asked for, nor is it like what we need. But let's quickly talk about one of the biggest issues that I have with this change. If they wanted this to be impactful, it should have been on counter hit, not punish counter. Let me explain. The first thing I thought about when I saw this change was, hey, I could punish air attacks now and get big damage off of it. I thought if Cammy does a dive kick, I could punish it and go into a big combo, just like this. However, that's just not true. The reason is because I have punish counter on. And if this move was punish counterable, yes, that would happen. But if you look at the frame meter and we look at what the meter does, a punish counter can only be done when the opponent is in recovery. And she doesn't go in recovery until she hits the ground. Most dive kicks are active until you reach the ground. And when you reach the ground, that's when you're in recovery. Meaning, in this case, I can't anti-air punish counter her off of a dive kick. Now, if Cammy goes for her command grab, since the grab will recover, technically there is a few frames where you could be punish countered and launch. But I mean, we already had options on the counter hit anyway, kind of similar to the punish counter. So air moves that don't go into recovery, like Superman Punch, we only get the counter hit, or special moves like Headbutt. Even those won't go into punish counter. But Butt Slam is a bit different. It's 2 parts, and it does go into recovery. If you look at how Butt Slam works, since it's 2 hits, it starts up and is active on the way up, then starts recovery, then becomes active on the way down and recovers. So technically, you can hit a punish counter on Honda's Butt Slam. I'm not saying not to do it, but there is a risk in doing so. It definitely is a skillful thing to use. I'm not saying not to use it, but as you can see, there is risk to doing it because it's a little awkward in how they'll land. But also, if you screw up, you'll be punish countered and take a lot of damage. But that is one way to use it. But where it does work is on movement options that put you in the air, like Kimberly's teleport. After she starts up, she goes invul and goes into recovery before the startup of her air attack, which means if you're quick enough, you can punish the teleport. If you take too long, you'll counter hit the jumping hard kick. Because the jumping hard kick is in startup, you don't get a punish counter. So if you're quick enough, you can hit this combo. Otherwise, you'd have to do a combo like this. So when Dawson does his teleport, the same thing. If you punish the recovery of his teleport, you get the punish counter. If you take too long and punish the startup of his hard kick, you don't get the punish counter, which we already had options like this to use against Dawson teleport. But yes, we get a little bit more now. Well, except it doesn't really work really well. And this is like one of the biggest problems with this change. It's too finicky. Whereas back hard kick would just be more normalized, which brings me to the biggest disappointment of this. I don't see what this change is meant for. In my opinion, it doesn't change our game plan in a transformative way. There's nothing about this that makes me think, oh, this could lead to more wins. And I have to change how I play because I want to build it around this option. Whereas the change that I think that we should have gotten was to get the same effect, but on standing hard kick. You see, off a standing hard kick, there's really not much that we can hit off of this. We can hit a level 1, we can hit a level 2, But we can't even really hit a level 3. We can't link off of this. We can't drive rush after. Whereas when we look at Ken, when he hits his hard kick, he can combo afterwards. Not only can he combo, but he can do so with only one bar, going into a fierce, and use this one stray hit for big corner carry. That's the change I would have liked to have seen, but I'm always open to have my mind changed. I am no longer on X, so I'm not going to be seeing a lot of tech stuff. I am on Blue Sky, but the FGC section of Blue Sky is a little bit still immature. So the best way to get in touch with me, if you do find anything, will be on Discord. Just search for Big Nasty Kail, or the Discord link will be in the description below. I know you came to see this video because you want to see what is possible with Juri with the new changes. But the reality is, I don't know yet, but what I see doesn't really look promising. Still, Juri didn't get nerfed, and she's still a very good character. Some of the top tier got nerfed, so her position at arguably the bottom of top 10 or the very beginning of the next tier is still secure. Juri is still viable. She's still very good. And with Juri's pain points, there's still a lot of stuff that is unaddressed. So going into the next patch in a few months, maybe I'll start to make content about that. A lot of inconsequential changes. The philosophy behind the crouching heavy punch change kind of doesn't flow with me. If anything, we'll find good damage off of like 3 bars of OD moves, but I kind of feel like we already could do that. And that's it. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.